There is a certain kind of person who struggles to choose one path, one identity, one passion, one answer. They start many things but hesitate to commit to only one. They are fascinated by multiple careers, multiple hobbies, multiple perspectives. When faced with a decision, they do not simply see two options. They see layers, contexts, consequences, possibilities, and hidden dimensions. Many people call them indecisive. Some call them distracted. But psychologically, there is another way to understand them. They often have what can be described as a synoptic mind. A synoptic mind is a mind that naturally sees the whole picture, rather than a single line. The word synoptic comes from the idea of seeing things together, viewing multiple elements at once. Instead of narrowing down quickly, this person expands outward. While others focus and zoom in, they zoom out. Their brain is wired to connect patterns across domains, to see relationships between seemingly unrelated ideas, and to explore possibilities rather than eliminate them. This is not simply indecision, it is a cognitive style. From a scientific perspective, this pattern often develops from a combination of temperament, intelligence style, early experiences, and environmental reinforcement. Some individuals are naturally high in openness to experience, a personality trait associated with curiosity, imagination, and cognitive flexibility. Their prefrontal cortex, which governs planning and complex thinking, becomes highly engaged when exploring alternatives. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with novelty and exploration, is often activated when they encounter new ideas. Choosing only one path can feel like shutting down neural stimulation. It feels like losing potential rather than gaining clarity. Over time, if a child grows up being rewarded for curiosity, creativity, and exploring multiple interests, their brain strengthens these networks. They become generalists rather than specialists. If they are also sensitive, thoughtful, or anxious about making mistakes, they may develop a deep habit of overanalyzing decisions. The brain learns that exploring every angle feels safer than committing prematurely. On the other hand, if a child grows up in an environment where choices were limited or imposed, they may later overcompensate by wanting every option open. What looks like indecision in adulthood can sometimes be a subconscious rebellion against past restriction. When you observe a person with a synoptic mind, you will notice certain behaviors. They often start sentences with, "it depends." They rarely give quick black and white answers. In conversations, they may argue both sides of an issue sincerely. Their body language can show mental activity, eyes looking upward as they mentally simulate outcomes, hands moving as if organizing invisible ideas, pauses before answering because they are running internal comparisons. They might hesitate when ordering food, not because they are confused, but because they are imagining how each option will taste and how they might regret not choosing the other. When such a person jumps between hobbies, careers, or projects, it reveals something deeper. Psychologically, it often indicates a mind that is stimulated by complexity. It can also indicate a fear of foreclosure. In developmental psychology, foreclosure refers to committing to an identity without sufficient exploration. The synoptic mind resists foreclosure. It wants to explore fully before settling. If they enroll in a course and then switch to another field, it does not necessarily mean they lack discipline. It may mean they discovered new data that altered their internal model. However, there is a difference between healthy synoptic thinking and anxious indecision. If a person shows excitement when exploring options, speaks passionately about possibilities, and does not experience intense distress, this reflects cognitive expansiveness. If, however, their body becomes tense, their breathing shallow, their sleep disturbed by constant rumination, this signals anxiety-driven overthinking. In that case, the inability to choose is not just curiosity. It is fear of loss, fear of regret, or fear of failure. When someone constantly seeks advice from multiple people before making a decision, it may indicate a lack of trust in their own judgment. The synoptic mind gathers perspectives because it naturally values multiple viewpoints. But when the behavior becomes repetitive reassurance-seeking, psychologists look for underlying insecurity. Does this person believe that one wrong choice will define their entire identity? Do they equate decision-making with permanent self-definition? If so, the mind becomes paralyzed because each choice feels irreversible and heavy. Interestingly, what a person does not do can be equally revealing. If someone with a synoptic mind avoids narrowing their goals, avoids setting deadlines, avoids declaring a clear direction publicly, this may indicate fear of accountability. Declaring one path means giving up others. It also means risking visible failure. The person who refuses to choose may unconsciously protect their self-image. As long as they have not committed, they have not failed. Potential remains intact. In relationships, this cognitive style can show up in subtle ways. Such individuals may struggle to define the relationship early. They might say they need more time, more understanding, more exploration. They see multiple possible futures and want to examine them carefully. If healthy, this makes them thoughtful partners who consider compatibility deeply. If unhealthy, it can create instability, leaving the other person feeling uncertain. When someone repeatedly says, "I'm not sure yet," it can reveal internal conflict between desire for freedom and desire for attachment. Emotionally, people with a synoptic mind often experience ambivalence intensely. They can love and doubt simultaneously. They can feel excited and fearful at the same time. Their emotional world is layered. This is because they mentally simulate consequences before acting. When they consider moving to a new city, they imagine the adventure, the career growth, the loneliness, the missed family events, the unknown social environment. Their nervous system reacts to all of these imagined realities as if they are partially real. This can be exhausting. In daily life, you might see them researching extensively before buying something simple. You might see multiple open tabs on their browser. You might notice unfinished notebooks filled with ideas. This behavior reveals a mind that struggles with closure. Closure requires cutting off alternatives. For a synoptic thinker, alternatives are valuable mental assets. Eliminating them feels like intellectual loss. But what happens psychologically over time? The first major side effect can be decision fatigue. When the brain constantly analyzes and reanalyzes options, cognitive resources are depleted. The person may procrastinate not because they are lazy, but because their mental energy has been consumed by evaluation. Chronic indecision can also lead to lowered self-esteem. When others move forward decisively, and they remain in analysis, they may internalize labels such as "I'm incapable" or "I'm behind." This self-criticism intensifies anxiety, creating a loop. Another long-term consequence is identity diffusion. If a person repeatedly shifts directions without integrating them into a coherent self-concept, they may feel fragmented. They might say, "I don't know who I am." This is not because they lack qualities, but because they have too many unintegrated aspects. Their mind contains multiple possible selves, and none feels fully chosen. Relationships can suffer as well. Partners may perceive them as unreliable or emotionally unavailable. Friends may interpret their hesitation as lack of commitment. Professionally, employers may question consistency. Over time, the synoptic thinker may feel misunderstood. They may withdraw socially to avoid judgment, which can increase feelings of isolation. From a mental health perspective, chronic overanalysis is associated with rumination. Rumination keeps the stress response active. Cortisol levels may remain elevated. Sleep disturbances can occur because the brain continues simulating scenarios at night. Anxiety disorders sometimes coexist with this pattern, especially when perfectionism is present. Depression can develop if the person feels trapped in inaction, watching opportunities pass while they are still thinking. However, it is important to emphasize that the synoptic mind is not a disorder. It is a cognitive strength when balanced. These individuals often excel in strategy, philosophy, interdisciplinary research, creative problem-solving, and leadership roles that require seeing the big picture. They can anticipate risks others miss. They are less likely to make impulsive mistakes because they consider consequences deeply. Psychologists analyzing this behavior pay attention to several dimensions. First, they observe decision timelines. Does the person delay small decisions excessively? Second, they examine emotional responses during choice-making. Is there visible distress, muscle tension, avoidance behavior? Third, they explore belief systems. Many synoptic thinkers hold core beliefs such as, there is a perfect choice, or, if I choose wrong, everything collapses. These cognitive distortions fuel paralysis. Therapists may use techniques like cognitive restructuring to challenge catastrophic thinking. They might ask the client to rate realistically how permanent a decision truly is. They also explore early experiences. Was the person criticized harshly for mistakes? Did they grow up in an unpredictable environment where wrong decisions had severe consequences? Understanding the origin reduces shame. Behavioral experiments are also common. A psychologist may encourage the individual to make small, low-risk decisions quickly and observe the outcome. This retrains the brain to tolerate uncertainty. Mindfulness practices can help them notice the urge to analyze without acting on it. Over time, the nervous system learns that uncertainty is uncomfortable but survivable. One of the most powerful shifts for a synoptic mind is learning the concept of satisficing rather than maximizing. Maximizers search endlessly for the optimal option. Satisficers choose an option that is good enough and move forward. Research suggests that maximizers experience more regret and less satisfaction, even when their outcomes are objectively better. Teaching a synoptic thinker to accept imperfection can dramatically improve well-being. Body language analysis can also provide insight. If someone crosses their arms tightly, avoids eye contact, and delays answering direct questions, this may signal defensiveness rooted in fear of being wrong. If they lean forward, maintain engaged eye contact, and smile while exploring alternatives, this indicates curiosity rather than anxiety. The external posture reflects internal emotional tone. Socially, people with synoptic minds often attract others who value depth. They can hold nuanced conversations and integrate diverse perspectives. However, in fast-paced environments that reward quick decisions, they may feel pressured. Under pressure, they might freeze or comply with others. Choices just to end the discomfort. This can later lead to resentment because the decision did not feel authentically theirs. The mental conflict at the heart of this pattern is between freedom and commitment. Freedom means endless possibility. Commitment means direction, but limitation. The synoptic mind values possibility intensely. To choose one path is to let other imagined futures die. This symbolic loss triggers subtle grief. Most people do not consciously recognize this grief, but it is there. Each decision closes doors. For the synoptic thinker, closed doors echo loudly. Healing does not mean becoming narrow. It means integrating breadth with action. It means recognizing that identity can be layered. A person does not have to be only one thing. They can be a scientist and an artist, analytical and emotional, structured and spontaneous. The key is not eliminating options but sequencing them. Life unfolds over time. One path now does not erase another later. When such individuals learn to trust that no single decision defines their entire existence, anxiety decreases. When they understand that regret is a normal human emotion and not proof of failure, they become freer to act. When they shift from seeking the perfect choice to creating meaning from whichever choice they make, they reclaim agency. In conclusion, the psychology of people who cannot choose one thing is complex, nuanced, and deeply human. The synoptic mind sees more, feels more layers, anticipates more consequences. It is a gift of expanded awareness, but without emotional regulation and self-trust, that same gift becomes paralysis. As psychologists and as fellow human beings, our role is not to label such individuals as indecisive or confused. Our role is to help them understand their cognitive style, regulate their fears, and harness their expansive thinking into purposeful action. When they learn to balance breadth with commitment, they often become some of the most insightful, empathetic, and visionary individuals in any room.